I want to welcome everybody to the Daily Cheat Sheet. We are not on shutdown like the government, but I want to remind everybody it's really helpful for us if you go to Apple, if you go Spotify, or if you go to any of the places you can find us at the Daily Cheat Sheet and subscribe, follow us, and give us that nice review. It's really helpful for us, and that's really all we ask. So thank you in advance. And Golan, I sent you the polling, and I had written about this beforehand, so I'm not going to pat myself on the back for predicting the future. I just knew that this government shutdown would not poll well, especially probably amongst independents, because it's a joke. I mean, the reality is they shut down the government for illegal immigrants, and they did not shut down the government for America. And I do not see how they get out of this. Trump set them up into a massive trap, and Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer fell for this trap. And here we are. I don't know how they reverse course because Trump has no reason to give in to any of their demands. So they're actually going to, if they do come back to the table, nothing is going to be given to them, and they will look even more foolish than they do right now.
I mean, the thing is, first of all, the idea of shutting down the government, it just amounts to a tantrum at the end of the day. And if there's some major issue that really affects all Americans, and there is some authoritarian that is trying to do so, I guess it's a lever that they can pull. But when 65% of Americans don't want it and half the Democrats think it's a bad idea, what exactly are you doing? Who are you trying to impress? You said it perfectly, Judah, is that right now they're trying to shut down or they have shut down the government primarily for illegal immigrants. They're pushing for like health care for them. They're pushing for them to not be rounded up, and the people who broke the law, not to be rounded up for breaking the law. And essentially they are punishing all Americans, all legal Americans, by trying to advocate for people that are not even members, citizens of this country. I think that there's a reason why everybody is against this. They're also looking for specific things that are like COVID era giveaways, but we're years after COVID. And the final thing is that the Republicans are pushing for a clean CR, the same thing the Democrats supported a dozen times under Biden. And it seems like now the hypocrisy has just become nuclear when it comes to what it is that they're doing.
Explain what a CR is, by the way.
So a CR is a continuing resolution. It's basically when Congress says both sides haven't agreed on a full budget right now, but we'll just extend what's going currently. Continuing resolution means whatever's currently being spent continues to be spent. Make sure the lights stay on. Make sure that the offices don't close. Make sure that inspections don't stop. All the stuff that's happening during a government shutdown. Basically, it just says we will now work out whatever else has to be worked out. But in the interim, we're not shutting down the government. We are beginning a conversation while the resolution continues. That's essentially what it is.
Thank you for that. And Mend, again, it's like you watched that video yesterday with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and him wearing the Mexican hat. And it goes to the point where the memes or the X's or the tweets or the truths that used to bother you or bother people are now actually breaking through. They're no longer, could the media construe this narrative that Trump is the boogeyman or the bad. These are actually resonating with people. And you could see it with 65% of Democrats, right? Golan, is that the number?
65,
not approving.
No, it's 65% of Americans, 50% of Democrats.
Still a massive number of Democrats,
number.
Mend. And I would love to see the independent number, but Mend that do not agree with this. And Trump has really set them a trap that I do not see a way out of.
The looming government shutdown is it today? Today is the government shutdown day?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it might be tomorrow, but it's today. Fantastic. So the Democrats were demanding.
Well, today or tomorrow. I mean,
whatever. They were demanding a whole bunch. I think it was $1 billion, $1 billion, maybe more, for free Medicare or Medi-Cal or whatever, or Medicaid or medical programs for illegal aliens. So they're fighting for illegal aliens and they're not fighting for Americans, which is fantastic. Great look for them. And the administration's not going to budge because these are things that were just passed in the big, beautiful bill. They just got these things approved. They're not going to reverse it because Schumer, the Palestinian Nazi sympathizer, wants them to start giving more billions of dollars to illegal aliens. That's never going to happen. It's almost like he doesn't know what administration he's dealing with. He thinks he's still talking to Biden.
I think that's a very, you know what? I actually like how you said that, and I think you're 100% correct. And I think they all do demand that they're doubling down on Harris's campaign.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's great. President said that, oh, if we do go to a shutdown, there are other things that the government can do while in a shutdown. Like instead of just furloughing jobs, we could permanently remove or reduce the labor force in the federal government. So, just a quick note. Republicans like small government, less tax. Democrats like big government, meaning lots and lots of people working for the government and super high tax on everybody. So Trump's going, if you're going to do this and you're going to let us go to a shutdown, while we do this little furlough thing, we're going to review all of the agencies that don't have alternate means of funding, and we're going to move to permanently remove those agencies. So reduce or remove these agencies. He instructed the Office of Management and Budget to move to permanently reduce the government workforce if there's a shutdown. This is great because most of these agencies and most of the people that work for these agencies, basically the bureaucratic pencil pushers, all vote left anyway. So they're going to hurt their base by forcing this ridiculous shutdown. And the shutdown is really easy for the Republicans to frame. We don't want to tax you to spend billions of dollars on illegal immigrants. And the Democrats do. They want to charge you more money in your taxes to pay for illegal immigrants to get free health care while you don't. I pay, me and my family, we pay thousands of dollars every month for medical coverage. It's insane. It's the Obamacare.
Well, I think you framed it perfectly because I think the Democrats, you're right. The Democrats cannot frame this in any other way than it actually being what they're being accused of. And Golan, I think that's the major point, is that Trump set a massive trap for them. But I want to go to something he said because they think it's the last administration. And this is something we haven't touched on a little bit. And we really want to do it quickly. It's about Harris's new book where she blames everybody for her losing. I don't know if you've seen excerpts of this, but Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie, wrote 27 different scripts for her DNC speech. You know, she's just blaming all, she didn't want celebrities. She did this whole thing that we all knew.
It's
And
unbelievable. I've been able to read certain portions of it. I haven't read the whole thing, but it's at a level of, again, as we talk about on a regular basis, it feels like a parodic account coming from a fictionalized Kamala Harris because of just how nothing ever is her fault, to the point where she walked into a room for an interview, had complaints about the lighting, had complaints about the microphone placement, had complaints about the seat height. And instead of saying something like a human being would, and certainly a leader, and certainly someone who wants to lead the biggest, most important country in the world, instead of saying anything, she said, you know, my guy should have noticed that beforehand. And so it wasn't my place to step in and start changing things. And so she then gave the interview and later got to say, see, even though I didn't say anything at the time, trust me, I was thinking it. I was right. See, the lighting makes me look bad. The microphone plate, I look small compared to Tim Walz, all this stuff. It literally is nothing at all from top to bottom is her fault. Even in her personal life, the anecdote she has about her marriage, it's always about her husband, regardless of who actually, even her stories where she's clearly at fault end with her saying, can you believe him? It's crazy making.
And so, but again, getting back to it quickly, she ran on the things that she ran on were voted against: crime, border, economy. And the Democrats are now shutting down the government on those, essentially those three things, right? They because illegals are committing crimes at a massive level, not contributing to the economy. It's killing the economy. So they're doubling down on something they lost on a little less than a year ago. Brilliant moves, man. Say, I can't think of a more strategic plan on running on stupid.
It's great that she's written a book because
Okay, let's say this: she hasn't written the book.
yeah,
Somebody wrote.
That's a good point.
Somebody.
she was drunk and she gave some ramblings and somebody turned it into a manuscript for a book. Look, I hope she does not go away. There are some people that I wish fade into oblivion and just go away. She is not one of them. I hope she sticks
Fine.
around.
She is the gift that keeps on giving.
The gift that keeps on giving, constant entertainment, that cackly laugh, the ridiculous takes she does, her blaming everybody. She's torching Biden now. She's saying that he dropped out too late, like all the stuff, all of it. She would have.
You know what's funny? Sorry to interrupt you.
Judge.
Can I just say something really funny? Because you brought this up that I'd really never thought of, because you brought up the cackling. That was something that was really hurting them continuously with Hillary, was you could not get the cackle out of your face. So she's dumb Hillary cackle. So that's why I never really want to get her out of the place, because Hillary, there was always a threat that she could run again and possibly win. But with dumb cackles, there's zero chance. She does nothing but hurts them. Sorry to interrupt, but I just thought that was a funny thing you brought up.
No, it was great. She talked about why she didn't select Pete Buttigieg because he wasn't gay enough, and also because he was gay. And the Jew, forget the Jew Shapiro, we didn't want him, although he could have helped us win. So she went with Tampon Tim. I mean, all of it. It's just nonstop
In the book, she
entertainment.
talks about, we don't have to do a whole review of the book, but it's hilarious because she talks about, why did she pick Tim? She picked Tim because he showed up for his interview and was like, I don't know how to use a teleprompter and I'm not very good at debates. And she was like, it's the most amazing own goal that I've ever seen. Again, it feels like parody. It feels like if I was making fun of her
You
and wrote a
raised
book in
also,
her voice.
You go down
You
the
just-
line. Look,
you just brought up a great point, which is Democrats have constantly, everybody always used to say about Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle looks like a Mensa member compared to most of the vice presidential picks that Democrats have had.
I was just going to say that.
And one thing they have constantly done is choose dumber below them, right? So Obama had Biden had Harris. It's like, and I mean, you can only go so much lower than Harris. So she went not to just dumb, she went full on as
Yeah,
many.
She
on
even
Tim.
talks about, by the way, that Josh Shapiro was too smart. He was going to overshadow her. He wanted, and I don't know if you remember, but when Biden brought her in, there were interviews where they were like, were you the last person in the room for Afghanistan? Were you the last? And she was like, I was always like, I was in every meeting. We didn't make a decision without each other. Everything. And she even writes in the book, it's like she doesn't realize that she's contradicting herself. In the book, she writes, whenever I
She
looked
doesn't
good,
write.
he looked, of course, whoever wrote it, for the AI who wrote it for her, said, whenever I do well, it makes him look good too. And so his team didn't understand that or whatever. And then in the next chapter talks about why she didn't want Josh Shapiro, because he wanted to be part of the decision-making process. He wanted to be in the room. And she was like, you can't be in the room. You're just the vice president. And she literally said, the book, I as a president, every day I'm going to have 99 problems and my VP shouldn't be one. She literally turned him down because he was too smart, too astute, and wanted to be too involved. That should tell you everything. The ego that this woman has is astounding.
It's not even ego. It's
Stupidity.
She's so stupid.
Yeah.
It's so stupid not even to know.
But think of how dangerous an ego with stupidity is.
Yeah, well, that's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, that's why he is dangerous, is because he's got that ego and he is a little bit more finessed, and he's actually dangerous. Gavin Newsom is someone who's a little bit dangerous, even though he has an atrocious track record of what he did to California. He still has a chance at winning the presidential election.
He has
That's
no
where we are.
chance. You have
I know
more
you
of a
say
chance.
that. I'm afraid of that guy. I am afraid of that guy.
I have absolutely zero fear in the world of Gavin Newsom.
And I'll tell you why.
This is the bubble
They
we live
managed
in.
to get Biden. They got Biden into office, and that guy was pooping his own pants and getting lost in his closet.
I understand.
So if the machine gets behind you, it doesn't matter what you did. Look at Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel did blackface on TV. Jimmy Kimmel was seen groping of a woman. It was just a stranger on The Man Show or whatever it was, right? She's looking through the binoculars and he's groping her ass, doing all these silly things behind her. That guy is still the poster boy for the Democrats.
Yeah, I'm
you
just
can't
going to
tell
say
me that
this.
anyone's too toxic for them.
Again, 1 million people are watching him. And I will say this. This is the argument I had with people for a year, Golan, was that when they kept on saying, who are they going to replace Biden with? And I kept on saying, it's not going to be Newsom. And everybody's like, I could guarantee you it's going to be Newsom. And I'm not going to say I told you so. Yes, there's a lot of time to come. Every polling, every metric shows that in every swing state, every flyover state, he does not poll or track well. I get it. We live in.
I will just say, as someone who has been involved in the political system when it comes to presidential elections, I can tell you that I don't think we know yet. because there is a difference between someone who is in a specific place and known for a specific thing and known for specific policies, and then what they say and do when they are on the national path. And I have seen it happen before. Someone who is stuck in a specific bubble, but when they get on the national stage, they change into something else. And I think, by the way, if Kamala had not been a black woman or an Indian woman, whatever she is, then I think Gavin Newsom might have been the one that they slotted in there. Because if all the rumors are true, and some of these things have been verified, but I don't know personally, that they wanted Kamala to step aside. And when Biden was leaving, it was one of the reasons why it took him a while to leave, actually. Interestingly, since she blames him, it's actually her fault that he didn't want to leave, because he was like, that leaves her as the only option. And they thought the optics of telling a black woman on the world stage who was not going to play ball, you have to step aside despite being vice president to let someone who actually can do this job in, would have looked terrible. So instead, they did the only thing they could do, slot her in and then pay the media off to make her look like a champion until she lost.
Okay, well said, both of you. I just want to move on to just say, listen, the reality is people are wondering when the investigations of Newsom's handling of the fire and all the money are coming. Well, they're coming in about 2 years. That's exactly when they will start investigating Gavin Newsom's malpractice of how he's handled the state of California, the missing $40 billion, the missing fire funds, the train to nowhere, and the hundreds of billions. That's when it'll be done tit for tat. And this won't be about him going to jail. It'll just be showing the American people who this person really is. But Golan, yesterday we discussed Pete Hegseth, and you were a little, I understand why your thinking was your thinking in certain ways, and nobody understood or knew why, or people were speculating of what he was doing, and I really did think it was just to dress him down. But I said the reason why nobody knows is because everybody will share. And all of a sudden today we have generals, anonymous sources reporting he could have just done it by email. And jackasses, that's the point of why he did it in person. Do you feel a little differently today after you see those anonymous sources coming out?
Look, anytime I see anonymous sources, I immediately think this is just a machine working to smear. To me, anonymous sources, I understand that in journalism, there are anonymous sources because some people cannot reveal themselves for one reason or another. But it has been so weaponized. I know I've been using that word a lot this week, but there's been a lot of weaponization this week. But the anonymous source concept has been so weaponized that I no longer believe these people exist. And basically, you have lost, not just from me, but I think from the American people, you have lost the trust when you only are quoting anonymous sources over and over again. And it also means, as you talked about yesterday, there's no secrets. The whole point is you now going to the press, if there were actual generals who did this and started bitching and moaning about what Pete Hegseth just did, instead of keeping it confidential, instead of keeping it to yourself like you should have, just proves that if he had said something to you in a non-public forum, a non-in-person forum, immediately it would have been leaked. You're proving his point for him. So you have literally fallen into yet another trap. It's like this has just been trap after trap after trap that, Trump trapped Hamas, and now this, and now we're going to talk about some other traps that Trump has been, the thing with the government shutdown, it's another trap. Now they have to double down on stupid, and this is just another one. He brought you into a room and reminded you that this isn't a diversity seminar. We've got stuff to do here. And the first thing you did was run to the press about it to complain because it wasn't an email. You're proving the point that Pete Hegseth was trying to show you.
And just so you know, I agree with you about the anonymous sources, but we have enough generals that have spoken or written books that they should never have written. And I'm talking about Milley, I'm talking about Mattis, I'm talking about Kelly, all these generals who are backstabbing Trump behind his back, going to the press, doing all that stuff. I think we have actual data that these people cannot control their mouths and should not be in those positions. So, man, I don't think it's that far of a leap to think that many of these generals that were there yesterday were actual sources. But I agree with Golan. I hate it.
By the way, just to be clear, I'm not saying these sources don't exist. I'm saying if you are going to go ahead and betray the confidence of the people, of the commander in chief, let's just say it plainly, he showed up, he was part of this conversation, and then you're calling it a campaign rally. When the commander in chief shows up, that's your boss. It's not a campaign rally, you morons. So the fact that they went out and wanted to anonymously complain about it just makes them seem even weaker than they already seem.
It's funny. Anytime I want the worst takes on any of this stuff, I just turn on the BBC and you'll hear them interview, oh, and former general so-and-so. And he goes, oh, no, it's terrible what they're doing. He's focusing on trans issues when the army is done. Diversity is our strength. Shut up. It's always the same exact. Or they'll get some professor, and here's Professor Connie, what's her face from blah, blah, blah. And she'll say, well, it's just Trump because his ego
You
is
have to change your
bruised.
voice because you went to a woman.
Yeah, whatever. It's the same thing. They all sound like shrilly Karens. And every single time, bottom line is, Hegseth got up there. He said, no more generals in dresses, no more promotion based on race, no more promotion based on your gender identity. We are about merit based only. We're going to get back to the warrior ethos. And if any of this makes your stomach turn, do the honorable thing and resign now. Clean house. He should have a task force, a team going through all the military generals, find the wokest ones and kick them the hell out. We don't need them in the military. They could then move on to BBC interviews and give their worst possible takes there.
Just
And
out of
Hegseth, by the
curiosity,
way, did mention a few generals by name that he felt didn't fit, didn't belong where he talked
Right.
about McKenzie, he talked about Corelli, talked about Mark Milley. He wasn't pulling
But they're
punches.
out. They're already out, right?
But he was
Yeah.
saying those are examples of people who had betrayed what the military was supposed to be about and were examples of what we want to avoid in the future. And basically, these are the kinds of people, if you are interested in what they're doing or what they were doing, if you are interested in following their nostrums, then you don't belong here. And now you know. Here's a list. Do you believe what they believe? There's the door. So he was very specific about it. And I think that the idea of doing this, I get, as I said yesterday, I understand the security risk concept. That's still just, there's a little part of me as a military person that says concentrating so many top brass in one time in one place is a dangerous thing to do. But I felt like, as we talked about yesterday, the show was the point. This was meant to be a come to Jesus moment. And I
man, I
think
have
that only works in person.
obviously I agree. Man, I have one question for you because you bring it up. Like, how do you find the BBC? Because you bring it up like it's so easy. Where do you go to find the BBC? Or are
It's
you
either-
reading it?
It's either online, is usually online, or you could just
Okay, you're not watching the actual BBC.
No. That would take up way too much time. It's either I get clips. I have people send me clips from their broadcasts. It's absolutely the worst take every single time. Every single time.
No,
If
no,
you
I
wanna know-
agree. I'm just curious. You made it sound like you're watching the BBC, so I was just curious because I would actually turn on the BBC just so. I mean, listen, I love watching Australia's Sky News because they're fantastic. And just for the record, Rupert Murdoch does not own the BBC. Obviously, go on, but he no longer has any financial stake in Sky. But he does have financial stake in Sky Australia, which is extremely conservative. People get this confused.
The BBC is like NPR here. It's a
No, it's worse.
government-owned,
It's worse.
state-funded.
No, it's, you know why it's worse? Because they go to extremes that are so anti-moral and anti-ethical that it shocks the conscience sometimes. I was telling Judah, you mentioned the BBC. It's funny you mentioned it because offline, I was just telling Judah, I was watching the BBC myself earlier, and the newscaster said, this deal in Gaza, it's a really bad deal for Hamas because they would have to give up the hostages. Like, you just go like, did you say that out loud? Did you think you were talking to your cousin in a quiet room? Like, what the things they say are shocking.
Right. And man, just so you understand, the BBC is watched by a lot more people, by multiples of multiples of millions, however you want to say it, compared to NPR, PBS, or even CNN. The BBC is an extremely massive station. Remember, all the shows we get, man, that people love from the BBC, people love from England, are usually BBC. I mean, they're massive. This isn't national propaganda.
Yeah, it's
radio
massive,
here.
but they are propaganda.
No, I 100%. There's no doubt about it. I want to move on though, because this is like extremely important. There are a lot of people right now that are going to be proven one day and are on the wrong side of history. There's just no doubt about it, and I'm including many Americans in that. And I understand that Americans really, for lack of education, for wanting to be sheep-like, just go with the flow and don't do any investigation, don't look into any stories. But you brought up something, and this is what it comes down to. Hamas is still holding hostages. and how people cannot get this thing out of their mind. So for everybody that has stated, and I mean everybody, I don't care what side of the aisle you are on, that has stated they do not like Bibi's policies, because I always say they always know Bibi's policies. Bibi is the one that agreed to this 20-point plan. And yes, yesterday he hired Brad Pascal, Trump's former IT specialist, to run a campaign for Israel. It really won't matter. But the fact that Hamas is the one that's rejecting the deal, they are rejecting the deal and coming at with new demands. Okay, so let's just break this down. Hamas, you are in no ability. The only reason you have an ability to make demands is because you have hostages. That should be the only thing, Golan, people are highlighting right now, is that Bibi agreed to this deal. Every Arab nation agreed to this deal, minus Hamas and minus many in the Palestinian that live in the Gaza or wherever they're living, because this is something they cannot let go of. They refuse to accept a Jewish state, plain and simple.
And clearly, based on what I just told you, the BBC people were saying people not only are on the wrong side of history, they are on the wrong side of every shred of morality that exists. How can you even pretend to be on the right side of history when you're defending a group that refuses a deal to free kids from underground prisons? What is the sticking point? What is the alternative? No, they should hold on to them because that's their leverage. Israel has said yes, as you pointed out. Bibi has said yes. So those people who are looking to vilify Bibi, well, here's your chance. He's finally doing what you want. And so the idea that today, there were pro-Palestinian marches and rallies. Friends of mine in the UK were telling me they started up again. What are they marching for? Are they marching to make sure Hamas takes the deal? Do you guys need a pen? Like, what's happening? What are you doing? They're not doing this because they're looking for peace. We've said this 100 times. Hamas has told us this 100 times. And right now, Hamas hasn't rejected the deal yet, but they have already indicated that they're likely to, and that they have problems with it, and they have a bunch of things they want to add to it. And we've seen this story before where Hamas says, no, we want to take the deal. Here's our ridiculous proposal where you have to bring Elvis back from the dead, and they make a list of impossible stuff, and they're like, see, we're willing to make a deal. And then the BBC says Hamas said yes, and Bibi rejected the deal, in which he resurrected the dead. Like, this is just another example of how the terrorists are going to cling to the hostages because it's the only thing that is stopping A, everyone from just bombing the hell out of the place, but B, it's the only thing they have to stop, to make anyone even say there's a deal to be had. Do you remember, I'm just going to say one more thing. Do you remember how many times you've heard, whether it was in the movies or in real life, we don't negotiate with terrorists? That phrase, we don't negotiate with terrorists. All we do is negotiate with terrorists. And we do it only because they took innocent people and put them in cages underground. And so this whole thing is just ludicrous that anyone would be on the side of the monsters who would do such a thing. Anyone who is going to be judged harshly by history.
Yeah, and please go back under the rock that you came out of. Go back into that womb, and I pray none of you have children. I mean that. I see posts that people write. I see, and this angers me.
Luckily, they all have AI girlfriends. They are not going to have children, God willing.
God willing. I mean, that's all we could pray for men. But I don't know if you saw what Hamas is demanding, and pretty much you've lost all right to demand. You lost it on October 7th. But now that you're 85% surrounded, you truly have no demands.
The sticking point that I'm hearing is the disarming. They don't want to disarm.
Yeah, it's the same sticking point they had from the beginning.
Yeah. No. They're trying to distinguish between offensive weapons and defensive weapons that Israel has.
The bottom line is Gaza at the end of this thing, and I always thought about that when they pulled out in, 2005, they pulled out of Gaza?
Yes.
The Americans were giving the Palestinian Authority, which took over at the time, M16s. I'm like, why do they need M16s to police their people? You give them pistols, revolvers, old school, or give them a whistle like they have in the UK. They don't need guns. What are you doing? So anyway, the Hamas doesn't want to give up their weapons. That's fine. The Israelis will go in there and smash the shit out of them. The Israelis agreed to a proposal put forward by Trump, not as a starting point. This is where the big disconnect happens. The Israelis go, this is the deal that we're willing to accept. Now that Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, Lebanon, Turkey, even Turkey has said, and Pakistan, like you talk about all these Muslim nations, they've all said this is the deal that you should take. You need to disarm. You need to go along with this deal and end the war. Now, when Hamas turns it down, it's going to make the British, the French, all those idiots that recognize the Palestinian state putting the cart before the horse, not saying end the war and then we'll recognize the Palestinian state. They said, no, we'll just recognize it and you don't have to do anything. You don't have to release the hostages. So it's going to make them all look like the jackasses that they are, which is great. I love stealing that word from Judah. He uses it all the time. But it leaves Hamas in a vulnerable position because the only place that they are currently safe is in Qatar. And Qatar, if Hamas turns this down, Qatar has to kick them out. They have to kick them out.
And
There's
now
no
they have
way.
American backing.
There's no way that Qatar gets to continue to have.
And not only backing, they can use America as the excuse.
Yeah.
We have no choice.
So
we wish we could keep you rapists and murderers.
This
I'm so
is
sorry, America
this is a
says
game
you
of
have to
chess
go.
that Trump just did some checkmate moves on these guys. That is next level. It's fantastic.
And I'm really glad that we brought that up here because I really want people to really be able to understand what exactly is going on. And you brought up Hamas, the starting point. No, with the 20-point plan is the finishing point. Okay, and that's what
This
they
is a
don't
take it or leave it. And
Right,
what's funny
that's
is
what
you
they-
hear those idiots on the BBC going, "Oh, it all depends on what Hamas comes back with." No. There is no coming back with. This is it. You take it or leave it. The Gaza City is still crawling with kids. Hamas won't let them get out. It's all their fault.
Have we
Every
quoted
dead
Trump, by
child
the
is an
way? I want to make
absolute-
sure we know what Trump said. Sorry, he said Hamas has 3 or 4 days to agree to this peace deal, or Hamas will face a, quote, very sad end. So he put it on the table. This is not a negotiation. This is what it is. Are you taking this or are you not? Because if you don't, everyone comes off the leash.
And it's interesting. It's not interesting. It's very scary. Obviously, tomorrow is the highest of holy days for Jews, which is Yom Kippur. And obviously, it evokes the Yom Kippur War. But at the same time, the 3 or 4 days, tomorrow is day number 3, which is on Yom Kippur. And Israel is absolutely on its highest alert. Obviously, it's really insane. And Hamas is just, again, I'll say this, if you're siding with Hamas or if you're siding with any of these people, you've lost your vote, you've lost your voice, you've lost you have no forum, you have no platform to be taken seriously.
Douglas Murray said this so great. He goes, every once in a while, throughout history, a flare goes up in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden you see where everybody is, where everybody stands.
That's great.
And October 7th was a flare that got shot up. And all those people, I know people that came out on the side of Hamas.
Yeah, it was great.
It was terrible. Like you see that these people that you thought they were good, decent human beings, and then they're just pumping out idiotic propaganda. And, I engage with some of these people. You're not getting through. They're just brainwashed.
I agree.
The one that they love going back to is like, I just want to see babies stop getting killed. We all want to see that. Release the goddamn hostages.
No.
To
But
end
here's
the
the
war.
bigger point to that. You know what the response to that is? Because it's the simplest response is Israel, when missiles are being shot, immediately, it's like if you're on an airplane and it goes down, right? It's like, take care of yourself and then put the mask on the babies, right? They're taking care of themselves and they're not putting the masks on the babies.
Complicated. I understand what you're saying.
No.
You could get into that. You could say Israel protects its citizens. Hamas doesn't. Ukraine lets all of the citizens go down into the subway stations. Hamas let not one innocent civilian go down into their tunnels. You could do all those things. Very simple. Bill Maher said it this way. He goes, to those people that say, oh, I just want to see the baby stop getting killed. We all want to see that. Of course we do. And the one who's continuing this war is Hamas. They need to release the hostages and surrender. That's how it ends. It's not about,
not according to the BBC. According to the
argument.
BBC, Hamas is really eager to see the genocide end. So just so you know what the BBC is saying.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about men to people. Really, people do not understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and people that listen to Bill Maher understand what you're saying, but not everybody that's walking out there has exact talking points. So it's important for people to, it's really important for people that are doing what you're trying to do to have the basic knowledge to counter these idiotic false claims, right? So when people say, I had somebody say to me yesterday, 40,000 Christians were killed in Gaza. And I'm like, 40,000. I mean, if you were going to come at me with a lie, you might have wanted to say 400 Christians, right? And then by the fourth thing, thing, they say Israel's just a genocidal, whatever. You know what I mean? And I was like, why didn't you just say that right away? We could have had a conversation. Okay, you had to lie to get to the fourth post of where you go genocide.
But do you remember when was it a British general came out and said 14,000 babies are going to starve to death by the end of the week?
Yeah.
The UN said that, yeah.
The UN guys. That was all bullshit. It was completely made up. Never
but
happened.
All of it. But right now, there was a thing recently. Again, you can take, Judah has mentioned this a handful of times. If you are aiming for a specific talking point, or you're aiming for a particular culprit or whatever, then you can find anything somewhere that will support that. You will skew the information. You will do whatever you have to do to make that happen, right? And so there was just a little while ago, they were talking about how many kids under 5 have been killed in Gaza. And they took 3 reports, misconstrued them completely. They took one that occurred way, way back, you're talking years ago now, and then just said, well, this is the number that were killed in the initial salvo, so we'll just multiply that by 2 years. And just made up numbers, just started adding all these numbers together, and they ended up with a number that is more kids under 5 had been killed than existed as human alive persons in the Gaza Strip. So the numbers are arbitrary. And the problem is that the press and social media and everything else, as we always talk about, is proliferating these numbers. And you have people who they're primed emotionally, and so forget facts. When you see a dead baby on screen, even if that baby came from Yemen and has been labeled Palestine, you're like, dead baby equals sad. So now I have to figure out, how did the dead baby die? Well, I'm told, according to this Facebook post, that it was because of Israel. So now I know. That's it. I'm just putting together 2 and 2. I don't have to think logically. I don't have to look into it. I'm not going to do any research. I'm not going to look at evidence. I know Israel killed a baby. There's the picture of the baby. And that one's starving. Nobody tells me that they have a disease. That baby's starving. How's the baby starving? Social media tells me Israel did it. So now Israel's the bad guy. And all these people have been brainwashed into this thing.
So I just wanted to end this, like I said, by saying there's something also that people are not talking about, which is, okay, so people are going to listen to us and say, well, why should we care about Israel, right? Why? And okay, so I'm going to say to you, don't care about Israel. That's fine. Care about the investments that are coming in from all the other nations in that region. We cannot survive alone as a country without other nations. So Trump, as I've brought up Golan many times, realizes that the EU is dying. They bring nothing. They offer zero utility to mankind at this point, as opposed to the Middle East regions, which bring tons of investments into our country, which you could agree with or disagree with. But none of this stuff works if you take Israel out of the equation, because in that region, the UAE, all the so-called moderate Arab nations need Israel's defense force over there defending them.
We are not fans of Naftali Bennett. Okay, I think that's safe to say, right, Judah? Judah Mend, right?
Can't stand them.
Okay, but when he was on trigonometry, he, as I said right after it happened, he had some stuff where I was like, all right, I'm in on that sentence. I'm in on that statement. And he had one rant that he went on trigonometry, and I was like, this is 1,000% right. And he was saying, for all those America only or America alone people that are wondering, why do we care about Israel? Well, the Islamist jihadis are not going to stop, whether Israel is there or not. Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East. We know that. But if you take all that away and you say, all right, those people are still going to exist over there, and they're still going to want a caliphate, and they're still going to want to kill everyone who isn't them. But now we remove Israel from the equation. That means, since that's where evil is going to begin to proliferate from throughout the world, now America has to put bases in those areas to make sure they're watching, to make sure that something doesn't start there. And then that means you have to man those bases. Then you're going to have other bases that will back up those bases to make sure that those bases don't get attacked, as we've seen, throughout history. And little by little, what you've done is, instead of Israel just being this stopgap between Islamic terror and the rest of the world, which it is, we are the wall, we hold back the flood. Now America has to step in with allies and do that. And suddenly there's thousands and thousands of boots on the ground and new installations and everything else. That alone should make you say, not just we care about Israel, but thank God that Israel is there to hold back this flood and keep us safe. That's
Brilliant.
something I thought was brilliant.
And I think it's brilliantly said the way you put it out there. And what he basically just said, right, was Israel is making sure American troops do not need to go on the ground. So to the America only crowd that doesn't want American boots on the ground anywhere, your one way of having that not happen is by having Israel there.
The America only crew are now kissing the ass of Qatar. So to say that they're concerned about American boots on the ground, they're not. They are so far beyond. They've
Right, because
crossed
explain
the
why.
Rubicon. They are on the other side. But they don't.
No,
That
I
whole
meant because we
argument,
have boots on the ground
that
in
whole
Qatar.
argument that Israel is protecting America doesn't fly with the American only people
Well,
because
let's
they're
separate.
on.
Let's separate men. There are people who genuinely don't understand how the world works, or have been lulled into listening to charlatans and grifters like Tucker Carlson, and they think they're America only because they think it makes sense. They don't recognize, my metaphor always is the same. My neighbor's roof is on fire. It's not my roof. I ain't going to worry about it, forgetting that the fire can jump to my roof if I don't deal with it. Those people believe they have some kind of value system that says this. The grifters and charlatans that you're talking about, they don't care because they're getting paid.
I want to thank everybody for listening to this abridged version of the Daily Cheat Sheet. Since we are coming up on Yom Kippur and some of us have to prepare, it's getting late in Barcelona, and I think Yom Kippur is about to start, and I do not want Golan to break it in the first few minutes. I want to wish him an easy fast. I want to wish Mend an easy fast, and anybody out there that decides to fast, I wish them an easy and safe fast. And I want to thank America. I want to thank President Trump for protecting all Americans, including Jews. I want to thank Donald Trump for protecting the world, including Israel. And I want to thank him for protecting the world from itself. And I can't say how much it means to be an American. So thank you for everybody in this country that loves this country and fights for us. And thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I want to wish everybody a good morning, afternoon, and night world, wherever you are. God bless you all.